The evening sky over the city was fading into a muted purple, the kind that signaled both the end of a long day and the beginning of another quiet night. At the edge of a bustling street, tucked between a small hardware shop and an abandoned bookstore, stood a modest little food stall wrapped in the comforting aroma of freshly cooked rice, spices, and simmering broth. The sign above it read, "Nasim's Kitchen," painted lovingly by a neighbor years ago, though now a bit chipped from weather and time. Inside the stall, Nasim wiped his brow with the edge of a worn towel. He had been standing since early morning, preparing meals, chopping vegetables, boiling pots of lentils, and stirring curries that had been passed down through his family for generations. His customers loved his food, not merely for its taste but for something intangible, something warm that people often struggled to name, yet always felt. It was perhaps kindness, perhaps sincerity, perhaps simply the way he greeted every person as though they mattered. But today had been slower than usual. The city was colder than expected for this time of the year, and fewer people were venturing out. As he wiped down the counter, he noticed that the pot of lentil curry was still half full. He sighed quietly. Food wastage pained him, especially when he knew there were people outside these bright shops who could barely afford a single meal. Just as he was preparing to close early, he noticed a figure sitting on the curb across the street. The man's shoulders were hunched, his jacket thin and clearly insufficient for the biting chill. Nasim couldn't see his face clearly, but he saw enough: the exhaustion in the slump of his back, the quiet resignation in the way his arms wrapped around himself. Something tugged at him. He stepped outside the stall, crossing the small road with careful footsteps. The men didn't look up, even when Nasim came to stand beside him. "Assalamu alaikum," Nasim said softly. The men flinched slightly and looked up. His eyes were tired, deeply tired, but polite. "Wa alaikum assalam," he replied in a voice that sounded hoarse. "I'm closing up for the night," Nasim said, gesturing toward the stall, "but I have some food left. Would you like something warm to eat?" The men stared at him for a moment, almost as if unsure whether the offer was real. You don't have to," he whispered. "I know I don't," Nasim said with a small, reassuring smile. "But I'd like to." The man's lips parted, and he nodded gently. "Thank you." Nasim led him back to the stall and motioned for him to sit at one of the small wooden stools. The man sat slowly, as though his limbs were heavier than they should be. Nasim disappeared inside, returning moments later with a steaming bowl of lentil curry, soft naan, and a cup of hot tea. The men stared at the meal as though it was something precious. "Eat while it's hot," Nasim said. The stranger nodded again but didn't pick up the food immediately. Instead, he swallowed hard, his eyes glistening. "It's been 2 days," he said in a trembling voice. I didn't know if I would get something today." Nasim felt a sting behind his own eyes. "Alhamdulillah that you're here," he said. "Please, eat." The man lifted the spoon with shaking hands and took the first bite. The warmth of the curry traveled through his body visibly, as though thawing something frozen inside him. He took another bite, then another, eating slowly but with deep gratitude in every movement. Nasim didn't interrupt. He simply stood nearby, giving the man space, letting him eat at his own pace. After a few minutes, the man finally looked up. "My name is Haroon," he said softly. "I used to work at a factory, but it shut down last month. They laid all of us off. I've been looking for work since, but," he exhaled shakily. "Savings ran out. Rent overdue. I didn't have anything left." Nasim listened silently, nodding with understanding rather than pity. "That's a heavy burden to carry alone," he said gently. Haroon lowered his gaze. "I didn't want to trouble anyone. I thought maybe something would come up soon." "May I tell you something?" Nasim asked. Haroon nodded. "Needing help is not a weakness. And accepting kindness doesn't make you a burden." His voice was soft but steady. "All of us, at some point in our lives, rely on someone. That is how Allah made this world, interconnected, with hearts meant to support each other." Haroon blinked rapidly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. After he finished the meal, he whispered, "I don't think I can repay you." "You don't need to repay me," Nasim replied. "Maybe one day, when you're in a better place, you'll help someone else. That will be more than enough." Haroon's lips trembled into the faintest smile. The wind outside was getting colder now. People were packing up, closing their shops, and hurrying home. Nasim looked at the sky, then at Haroon. "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Haroon hesitated before replying, "Not really. But I'll find a spot somewhere." Nasim shook his head thoughtfully. "Wait here." He stepped behind the stall and reached for the large, worn blanket he kept for winter nights. It wasn't new, but it was thick and clean. Returning to Haroon, he extended it. "Take this," he said. Haroon's eyes widened. No, you've already done enough." "This is just a blanket," Nasim interrupted kindly. "Your health is more important." Haroon accepted it reluctantly, but with profound gratitude. As he wrapped himself in it, warmth blooming across his tired features, he whispered, "You don't even know me." Nasim's smile deepened. Kindness isn't reserved only for the people we know. Silence lingered between them for a moment, comforting, gentle, filled with understanding. Eventually, Haroon stood up. "Thank you for the meal," he said. "And the blanket. And for talking to me like," he paused, searching for the right words. "Like I mattered." "You do matter," Nasim said simply. "Come by any time you need food." "I mean it." Haroon nodded slowly. "I will." Days began to pass, each one bringing new customers, new meals, and new faces to Nasim's kitchen. And every evening, just before closing, Haroon would return. Not always hungry, sometimes just for a cup of tea, sometimes just to talk. He always insisted on helping, even though Nasim never asked. He would sweep the front area, wipe the stools, or carry crates from the storage corner. "You don't have to," Nasim would say. "I know," Haroon replied with a small smile. "But I want to." There was something healing in the rhythm they developed. The warmth of food, the warmth of conversation, the warmth of simply being seen, it began to restore parts of Haroon he had forgotten existed. Little by little, his shoulders straightened. His eyes brightened. Hope, which had once felt impossible, began to quietly slip back into his life. One afternoon, as Nasim was chopping vegetables, Haroon rushed in with excitement bursting from him like sunlight. "I found a job," he exclaimed. Nasim looked up with surprise and delight. "That's wonderful." "It's at a construction site," Haroon said, breathless with joy. "Not anything fancy, but steady work. They even said if things go well, I could take on more responsibilities later." Nasim walked out from behind the counter and pulled Haroon into a warm embrace. "Alhamdulillah. I am so happy for you." "I wanted to tell you first," Haroon said, voice thick with emotion. "You gave me dignity when I had none left." "You always had dignity," Nasim corrected. "You just needed someone to remind you." That evening, Haroon brought fresh bread from a nearby bakery, his first purchase with the advance payment he received. Together, he and Nasim shared a simple meal, laughing like old friends. Weeks turned into months. Haroon grew stronger, healthier, more confident. He rented a small room again, bought new clothes, and started sending money to his mother in his hometown. His life was slowly stitching itself back together, thread by thread. But one thing never changed. Every Friday evening, without fail, he would visit Nasim's kitchen to help serve meals to others in need. He said it was his way of honoring the night everything changed for him. One particularly cold evening, they were serving a group of laborers who had come from far away for work. Among them was a young boy, shivering in a thin shirt. As Haroon handed him a steaming plate of food, he noticed the boy's trembling. "Where's your jacket?" Haroon asked gently. The boy lowered his gaze. "I don't have one." Haroon hesitated for only a second before removing his own jacket, the warm, sturdy one he had bought just 2 months ago, and draping it over the boy's shoulders. The boy's eyes widened. No. I can't take this." "It's okay," Haroon said, echoing words he had heard once on a cold night long ago. "Your health is more important." From behind the counter, Nasim watched silently, a proud smile touching his lips. Later that night, as they closed the stall, Nasim placed a hand on Haroon's shoulder. "You've grown," he said softly. Haroon looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Your heart," Nasim said. "It has grown even warmer." Haroon felt tears pricking his eyes. "You taught me." "I didn't teach you," Nasim said gently. I only gave you a meal. The kindness was already inside you. As the night deepened and the streets emptied, Haroun looked up at the sky, a vast, endless stretch of stars barely visible through the city lights. He thought about the journey he had made, from despair to hope, from hunger to generosity. And he realized something profound. A warm meal had saved him. But a warmer heart, Nassim's heart, had changed him. And now, through his own acts of kindness, he hoped to change others too, one small gesture at a time. Because sometimes, that's all it takes. A warm meal. A warmer heart. And a moment of human connection that can reshape a life forever.